Collecting comics is pretty simple. Don't overthink it. What is shaking, YouTube? I am your host, Lawrence, over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles, and like always, welcome back to the show. Today is everybody's favorite video, the Hot 10 Comics of the Week Breakdown, where I take the 10 hottest comics according to the Key Collector app, and I break them down for you guys, letting you know which books I'm buying, at which prices, and which I'm staying away from. But before we get started in the video, like always, I remind you guys, if you're not a current sub of the channel, do yourself a favor, hit that sub button, smash the like button for me, and like always, let's get into this week's breakdown. Starting off the list at number 10 this week is a copy of Fantastic Four number 94 and the first appearance of Agatha Harkness. And last week we had a CGC 9.6 selling for an insane $1,500, up 14% over that average. Then we had a mid-grade CGC 5.0 sale of only $93, but up a crazy 63% over the average. Are you guys nuts? Who out there is paying $1,500 for this minor key? I don't care if it's super high grade. That to me is a colossal waste of money, unless you're a super duper Agatha Harkness fan, but I can't imagine anyone is. Regardless, even $100 for a 5.0 to me is still too much money to spend for this insignificant key. I'd rather put my money elsewhere. Swooping in at number 9 is some classic Silver Age goodness. It is a copy of Fantastic Four number 50 and this iconic cover by Jack Kirby featuring the classic battle between the Silver Surfer and Galactus. This is also the third appearance of the Silver Surfer and the second appearance of Galactus. And last week we had a CGC 7.5 selling for $699, up 4% over the average. Then we had a mid-grade CGC 4.0 sale for only $225, but only up 1% over the average. For me, the 4.0 sale for around $200 to $225 is where I'd be putting my money. To me, I think a 4.5 or 5.0 raw copy is where the best deal can be had. Yes, I'm a buyer of this book, but I see no reason to spend a crazy amount of money in high grade to own it. Mid grade is just right for me. Back on the list at the 8th spot this week is a classic cover and a first appearance. It is a copy of Amazing Spider-Man number 129 and the first appearance of Frank Castle and the Punisher. This is also an iconic cover by John Romita Sr. and Gil Kane. And last week we had a CGC 9.2 selling for a really good price of $3,299, up 7% over the average. Then we had a CGC 6.5 sale for only $1,225, but up 1% over the average again. To me, yes, this is a must-own book if you're a Punisher fan, if you're a Spider-Man fan, and if you collect classic covers as well. Close to being a trifecta in my opinion. Yes, I want to buy this book, and I think just buy the book that you want in your collection, depending on the grade that you think that you can afford and that you want. You don't need to overspend for this book. There are a lot of copies out there, but I do think at these prices, it's still a must-own. Coming in at number 7 was the best buy of the week last week. It is a copy of New Teen Titans number 2 and the first appearance of Deathstroke the Terminator. And last week, we had a CGC 9.8 selling for $677, up 4% over the average. Then we still had a CGC 9.4, a very good copy of this one, selling for only $195 and up 10% over the average. I'm going to stick to what I said last week. Yes, I want to own this book, and if you could pick up a high grade, a super high grade copy for $200 or less, I do think it's a really good buy. For me, I'd love to own a 9.8 of this book, but I think $677 is a little bit too much. When we get to around $500, that's where I want to be at a 9.8. But either way, good buy on this one in super high grade. We can't have a great list without some Silver Age Spider-Man, and at number 6 this week is a copy of Amazing Spider-Man number 14 and the first appearance of the Green Goblin, Spider-Man's arch nemesis. And last week, we had a CGC 5.5 selling for $2,799, up 8% over the average. Then we also had a CGC 3.5 sale, lower to mid-grade, for $1,675, up 18% over the average. I'm happy to see Spidey Villains getting some love. I think the 3.5 for $1,675 is a really good deal if you're a Spider-Man fan. If you want to get a higher grade, that's really up to you. But to me, the 3.0, 3.5, hell, even a 2.5 is a sweet spot. I'm always a buyer of this book. Woo! I'm about to make a name for myself up in here. At the 5 spot this week is a copy of Silver Surfer number 4 and classic. Yes, I mean classic cover by the great John Buscema. And last week, we had a CGC 9.0, a super high-grade copy of the Silver Age gem, selling for $3,200, up 19% over the average. Then we had a CGC 7.0 sale, still a pretty high-grade copy of this one, selling for only $1,100, up 9% over the average. Hell, if I can get a 7.0 or a 7.5 for around $1,000 of this book, I'd be all over it. I will say this, if you still want to own a mid-grade copy, you could probably get one for between $500 and $600. I'd still be a buyer even there. This is a must-own for any classic cover collector. At the 4th spot this week is probably one of the hottest books out there. It is a copy of Incredible Hulk number 340 and this classic cover by Todd McFarlane. And last week we had a CGC 9.6 selling for $438, but up a crazy 25% over the average. I'm going to tell you what I've been telling you for the past couple of months. Yes, I want to own this book. It is a staple in every comic book collection, but I want to spend $400 to own this book in a CGC 9.6. You can still get a really nice copy for under $200, either at a 9.4 or a 9.2. Maybe you could press the shit out of that book and get it to a 9.6 and save yourself $200. That's what I'd be doing. Raw all the way on this one. Speaking of raws, at the 3 spot is a copy of Uncanny X-Men number 266 and the second appearance of Gambit. This is also the first cover appearance of Gambit and what I like to call the money book. And last week we had a CGC 9.6 selling for $700, up 13% over the average. This one is up $30 over the last 9.8 we talked about last week. Regardless, I have been telling you guys since the beginning, around $500 and a 9.8 is what I want to spend for this one. I'd rather buy a raw copy for around $150 just to have in the collection. That is what I'm willing to spend on this book. Everybody's favorite web hit is back at number 2 this week. It is a copy of Amazing Spider-Man number 252 and the first appearance of the symbiote costume in the Amazing Spider-Man title. And of course, this is the homage to Amazing Fantasy number 15. And last week we had a CGC 9.6 newsstand copy selling for a whopping $450, up 13% over that average. Then we had a CGC 9.0 direct edition sell for $178, but only up 1% over the average. I'm going to say exactly what I said for X-Men number 266. This is a must-own book in my opinion, especially if you're a Spider-Man fan, if you're a symbiote fan. I want to own it, but I don't want to spend $400 and change on a freaking newsstand copy. To me, it doesn't make sense. I'd rather own this book just to have it in my collection. I myself have a raw copy in my collection that's probably graded around a 9.2 or a 9.4, and I probably spent around $140 not too long ago. That to me is not breaking a bank and owning a significant key. And finally, back at the top spot after a 3-week hiatus, it is a copy of Marvel Superhero Secret Wars number 8 and the origin of the Black Symbiote costume. And last week we had a CGC 9.8 selling for only $525, up 5% over the average. I've said it before, this book gets to $500 in a 9.8. That's where I'd be a buyer, but until it does, I'm staying away. Too many copies out there of this one, graded even. To me, if you could find this book for around $150 just to have in a collection, but if you really want a 9.8, I'm shooting for that $500 level. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. A lot of great books on this list. A good mix of silver, copper, bronze. I love it. It is now time for my best buy of the week, and this was incredibly hard. A lot of great books at some decent prices. ASM 14, Silver Surfer number 4, Teen Titans number 2. But I'm going to surprise you guys right here. I'm going with Fantastic Four number 50 and the third appearance of the Silver Surfer, this classic cover, and the second appearance of Galactus. Why am I doing that? Because in mid-grade for $200, you can own this great book. Why spend $1,500? Why spend $3,000 to own a bigger key when you get a really great classic cover and third and second appearance for a great deal? I always say if you're going to buy second or third appearances, make sure you get great deals on them or it is not worth buying them. Hope you guys enjoyed the list. This is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics Collectibles saying thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.